Mix, we prepared some questions for you just to get to know better your art, your artistic path in life, like how it was, like the ideas behind the science of compassion. And first of all, I would like to start from the very beginning, with the heart of this project. What was the moment or experience that first sparked the idea for science of compassion?
Well, it came together in different ways over a period of years. I mean, it sort of crystallized over a period of years. My first introduction, first of all, to Emily Dickinson, I knew of her as a poet. I'm not a big poetry reader, but I was visiting my son at college many years ago, and I was looking for something to do while he went to class, and he said, "Well, right across the street is Emily Dickinson's house." So it's a museum, but where she grew up and wrote all her poetry in the bedroom upstairs. So that kind of introduced me to Emily Dickinson, and I started reading her poems, now and then, not seriously or not thinking of anything in particular. And then the opportunity came up at at our local library about 8 years ago. They wanted to give me a one-person show in the library. And they said, you can, how about just a collection of all your work? And I really didn't it was too sporadic. I wanted something cohesive. And since my technique at the time was this lenticular, I don't know why sign language came to mind, but I thought, there ought to be one I wanted to tell a story. I think that's where it came. I wanted to tell a story with lenticular, just not one piece that did something and then you move on to the next piece and it does something else. So I thought, and then, I don't know, it evolved into how can I tell a story? And then Emily Dickinson's poetry came to mind. I said, oh, I'll do a poem. Maybe I should have a poem and anyway, on and on. And then I thought, well, sign language conveys, can convey emotion with motion, as you so well pointed out in your article. So it kind of was, I can't track it step by step by step, but these things all sort of came together. My appreciation of Emily Dickinson, the lenticular technique, wanting to take it beyond the sheer novelty of, oh, this changes into that. That's cute. Why not do something more meaningful, convey something? And the other thing that fed into this was I've been to exhibits of not only mine, but other people. And I've heard visitors to a gallery say, oh, this art really speaks to me. So that phrase stuck with me. So then it was like, yeah, well, my art can speak to you because sign language is emotion, is two gestures usually. If is this, boom, boom. I is this, if I can stop. So everything's two motions pretty much in sign language, and perfect for lenticular. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of showing how it sort of came together. And then, so it was at the library, and it was very successful. I mean, the reaction was very positive. And then it went on to a gallery in Hartford, Connecticut, which is right nearby the School for the Deaf, the first school for the deaf in the United States. And they came to see it, the faculty and some of the deaf students, and they gave it a thumbs up, which I was worried about because I didn't know if I got all the gestures right, but they gave me the approval. And then it went on to a hospital in New York. And then it went from there to another school for the deaf. So it's been about 5 or 6 places. And finally, the UN heard about it, the United Nations, and I had to make it bigger. It was always each piece was always this big in the other previous exhibits. And for the United Nations wall was 100 feet long. So I had to scale everything up to have each piece be this big, 2 feet by 2 feet. And that's it took a lot of work. It took like a year and a half of work just creating it, but and there it was. And you've simulated so well on the wall, the color of the wall. Even though the much better idea, this rotunda effect is brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, yeah, I mean, the whole idea is brilliant. And Mix, actually, I have another question for you. And why did you pick that particular poem, like from like from Emily Dickinson's poetry? Like, why that particular one?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was a combination of maybe two things. One was very practical. In the library, when they proposed this exhibit, they didn't have walls. They had kiosks in the middle of the room, and each kiosk had four sides to it. And there was only room for 30 pieces. I brought, well, that's how it started, 30 pieces. And so I kind of worked backwards, and I read all through Emily Dickinson's, well, I read other poems too, but I kept going back to Emily Dickinson because the beauty of the emotion she conveyed, the economy of words and emotion. And so at one point I started counting words, and Signs of Compassion has maybe 35 or 6 words, but in sign language, some signs are combined words, like breaking heart. So that's more than one word. That's more than just heart or breaking. It's a very economical language. Like in sign language, instead of saying, I think I'm going to go to the store today, you would just sign going to store. That's all, they cut out all the middle stuff. And you can emote with your face and movement of body language. You can convey other things. So the practical part was I needed a poem with 30 words or phrases. And the other thing was just what it conveyed. I kept going back to it because all her poems are so, I don't know, human and sensitive, but this one really struck me because it was about compassion and just the creative thought of, returning an injured robin to his nest again as a metaphor for helping humanity just struck me. So
can I ask a question? I actually don't really know. Do you sign yourself, or did somebody help you? Or maybe you know sign language and that's why. How do you know that this amount of words would go into 30 signs?
Yeah, no, I did have help. I can't sign. I mean, I couldn't, I know the poem pretty much, if I
that's why I asked, because you started,
one heart from breaking, I don't know, I remember the rest, but no, I had a friend interpret the poem for me, and I videotaped him doing it because he knew he's fluent in sign language. So he broke it down word by word and phrase by phrase. Then I picked my subjects who I wanted to be of a diverse, my first thought, it seems so foolish now, was to just pick one person, and have them do the whole thing. And I thought, well, that's sort of boring. I mean, it's just the same person's face over and why not pick different faces, different ethnicities, gender? I try to do a total mix of, of all that, a diverse representation of humanity. And then I would show them the video and say, okay, you're doing the word stop, so do this. And I'd say, picture 1 is this, picture 2 is that, and I would take their pictures. And I did this over a period of 30 people. I had to arrange to do the pictures over a period of a year, really, and then put it all together and make the lenticular version of that. So, but I love science. I love the economy of it. It taught me a lot about just, it's speaking or even writing emails, to be very economical, try to be economical.
Yeah, well, that's actually brilliant. And Mix, I have another question. So the 30 people who participate in this project, so were they the people you personally knew, or how did you find those 30 individuals?
Yeah, I was limited. Again, there's a lot of practical constraints that go into any art. I think, it's how many brushes do I have? How many colors do I have? How many tubes of paint do I have? I mean, how big is my canvas? There's always a creative constraints. And, one of them was I had access to people in my own town. I couldn't start searching far and wide and, flying to California or something. So there's some certain, maybe half or more are people that I knew. and we don't have a really diverse town, but there's some African Americans, there's Asians, and obviously men and women, and there's some gay people in there that nobody would know by looking at them, but there's gay, the straight, and others I had to reach out for. Like if I didn't know any young Black children, and so I would really just ask around, word of mouth, and turns out they're very close in a neighboring town, and I would do things like that. I would just spread the word and ask people's help in finding certain people. So a lot are people I do know, and two have since passed away. It's amazing. The project is 8 years old. I mean, it was at the UN 2 years ago, but it started at the library about 8 years ago. And unfortunately, two people have passed since then, and there'll probably be more to come. But it's timeless. Hopefully, the thing that appeals to me is it's timeless. And the poem is timeless. Thanks to Emily Dickinson, the poem is just a timeless plea for compassion.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for your answer. And I found some information that the whole project process, like when you were recording the people signing, it was done to singing. Is it right? Like that the poem was being sang and the people, that's what I found in one of the articles.
Oh, that's interesting. No, I think maybe where that came from, and I never heard the results of it, but at the library exhibit way back when, somebody came up to me and said, I think he asked my permission. I go, well, it's not my poem. He said, I'd like to write a song. I'd like to put this to music. And I said, be my guest. I mean, Emily Dickinson, it's out of copyright. You have a right to use her words. But I never heard back from him. I never heard the song, but it was never set to music in my process.
Okay.
I wished I would love to hear it put to music.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, because I found it online and I just wanted to confirm whether it's correct. All right. And Miggs, lenticular photography is such a unique medium. And I want to ask you what draws you to it and how does it help you tell stories differently? Like, why lenticular photography?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go off screen to grab something for 1 second. So my introduction to it a long time ago, how long ago? I don't know, 15 years ago when my father died, and my mother asked me to come and take, clean out, take his, whatever I wanted, of his possessions that might appeal to me. And I came across, I don't know if this will convey this. So he used to save every birthday card that I got as a kid. Apparently he saved. So I came across this birthday card that an aunt had sent me, and it's lenticular. I don't know if you can see it. It's a baseball player swinging a bat. It's a little lenticular. Can you make out the little baseball player there? So, yeah. So anyway, that's a lenticular card. It's a lenticular little thing. It's only an inch across in this birthday card. And I was so intrigued by it. And I said, why hasn't anybody made, this would be fantastic. I mean, as an adult, I'm intrigued by this little kid's, my own, birthday card, this little, and I kept thinking, somebody must have made these bigger. I mean, it's too intriguing and fun and engaging just as a gimmick. And to back to your original question, I used to be a painter. I'm a graphic artist, but I used to paint also, and a pop artist, and I did magazine covers, and I did portraits of people. And that was all good. I never really I was always a frustrated filmmaker. I always wanted to be a filmmaker. My father worked for Walt Disney, actually on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1930, whatever it was. And he would talk about animation and how animation worked and how it fools the eye, because the movement you see in a cartoon, even in the movies, is not continuous motion. It's, as you may know, it's many frames. Ironically, it's 30 frames. Here I am doing a thing with 30 pictures. The first time it occurred to me, there's 30 frames to a second in animation. And it fools the eye because they go by so fast. The latent image creates motion. So I don't know. Again, one of these things that came together where this fulfilled my desire to tell stories, which I thought I wanted to do with films, which is very expensive to do. Not so much now, but in those days, a film camera would cost thousands of dollars. So this allowed me, to be more of a storyteller. I didn't think my paintings weren't good enough. I never thought. And they didn't tell a story. They captured a moment, which is fine. And there's some wonderful painters, and I love people who can paint and tell a story with paintings. I didn't think I was very successful at it. This was my ticket, to being a filmmaker with, instead of most movies have, if it's an hour and a half movie, there's probably 200,000 different frames if you're, or a cartoon, an animation. And I tell a story with just two, a beginning and an end, this and a that, a face doing, a person moving. So that's like, this isn't in the exhibit, but this is sign language. This is one of the first ones I did with sign language. And she's signing the word, the phrase, be nice. So this is the be, and that's nice. So actually, in this, maybe going back to your original question, there's another little piece of the process. The very first thing I tried with sign language was be nice, which is the introduction to a plea for compassion. And I think I expanded on Emily Dickinson's poem, led me to expand on this notion of conveying something positive with sign language. So you can tell I haven't sorted it all out until you draw it out of me. But yeah.
But it's very interesting because the whole story is like very inspiring. It's very touching. I actually really like your exhibition.
Well, thank you. But I think it also, I think any artist, there's everyone has a different process, and mine is kind of a sloppy process. Things just, I don't know, they come and go, and sometimes things stick in your head, and you say, maybe I'll use that someday. And I'm sure painters do it and photographers do it. And things just came together in that way, all these little different things. But my notion was always, the two driving things were to be a storyteller. And once I read the impact of the simplicity and the powerful emotion of that poem, was to be Emily Dickinson's champion, and giving that poem to the world, in an idealistic way. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it actually turned out amazing. And Miggs, I have another question. And how did collaborating with Mark Yurkiw and incorporating Braille deepen the project's message of accessibility?
Yeah, so Mark is a brilliant artist himself. He had his own art studio in New York for many years, and we're both we met years ago. Some mutual friends introduced us, and it turns out we're both of Ukrainian descent. He's second generation. I'm third generation. So he wasn't born there. His parents were born there. My grandparents were born there. So we bonded over that, and then became friends as artists. And when this project came up at the United Nations, they said we need two. I don't know why. They said, we'll give you your show, your 30 frames. And that still intrigues me that I just made that connection, the 30 frames per second, and I have 30 pictures on a wall. As my movie. So they said, we need another artist. I don't know, there's a rule. And we need another artist in the lobby. Do you know anybody? And Mark sort of came to mind. And he brilliantly, it wasn't my idea, he said, well, you're doing something for the deaf community. I'm going to do something for the blind community, because the United Nations is all about accessibility. And so he came up with this. He had just been to, is it Bhutan? I think, yeah, Bhutan, where they have prayer wheels. You probably read about it maybe in his description. So there's these prayer wheels that people turn and they touch it. It's not Braille, but there's iconography there. And they, I guess they start the day sometimes by turning the prayer wheels and being inspired and being, and he came back with this brilliant thought of, I put Braille on a Braille wheel, but oversized. Real Braille is only, if you're familiar with it, it's only a ½ inch tall, and there are little bumps on a paper. There's only, I think, there's only 6 or 8 bumps, but a combination of them together and some missing, is the whole alphabet and numbers. So it's an incredible, but I don't have the sensitivity to, we've tried it, but it takes a long time to with your finger to understand which bumps you're touching. So this is Braille magnified 100 times, maybe not 100 times. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, maybe whatever, because real Braille is a ½ inch tall, and his statements here maybe are 6 inches. So maybe it's six times. So the poem is spelled out on that Braille wheel. And you may have seen the picture on our website. There's a picture of a blind man with a cane and glasses, smiling, putting his hand. So I don't know if he really could read the Braille because it was so big, but it looked like he was reading it. But part of our intent was, people said, why didn't you use deaf people, hearing impaired people as subjects for your photography? And it's because I wanted to demonstrate one community reaching out to the other. It's like if I went to Romania and didn't know a word of Romanian, I mean, it wouldn't show as much, interest or compassion in your culture as if I came to you, even if I spoke poorly, but I knew some vocabulary. So that's it, is hearing people making an attempt to bridge that gap and saying, you know what, I'm not hearing impaired, but I want to speak to you in your language. I'm not going to be so arrogant to just speak to you with my mouth and you not understand. So that was it. And Mark did the same thing. Sighted people were intrigued by touching Braille and learning about it.
Yeah, and I saw that picture that you just mentioned, and I'm actually going to put it in the post if that's okay, because it's amazing. And yeah, well, just the whole idea is really, really nice. And Miggs, the Vilbil, our online hub for art and artists, brings signs of compassion to a global audience through virtual experience. And how does it feel to know that your work can now reach thousands of people across the world, regardless of geography or ability?
Yeah, no, I applaud. Am I pronouncing it? Is it Vilbil?
The Vilbil.
Vilbil, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I applaud you, your team, everybody. Brilliant. No, it's thrilling. I mean, I see it behind you, and it's like you're in there. And I said, oh, I want to be in that gallery. I'd like to go there to that gallery, which I can virtually. But seeing it's so real, and yeah, it's breathtaking to me to have that message that you took. I don't know how much time, but I can only begin to imagine how much time and effort and talent it took to convert these images into this virtual world. So it's stunning to me. It's great to be able to, the real images, the real lenticulars are in a box in my house. So people ask me, oh, where does the UN exhibit now? And I'd say, well, it's in my house, it's in boxes. But now I can say, it lives online, which is a wonderful thing. And reaching people, that's it all about. I mean, it's not doing anybody any good in my house,
Yeah, well, and it's also our mission to spread the like this art globally, so it reaches as many people as possible. And what do you think is the power of technology in making art more inclusive? So,
Yeah, actually, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine today at breakfast, and he was talking about, and he was, saying, I mean, I'm not. There's people doing their own thing and other technologies, and now with AI, and people think my thing is AI, which it isn't. Or these lenticulars are an old technique, as you probably know, going back to 70 years ago or more. But yeah, he was saying that art has always been in its own like path, with paint and brushes and marble and clay and this and that. And then technology has been on its path, everywhere from, the adding machine and calculators and this and that. And finally, we meet and overlap, and now it's expanded in wonderful ways and symbiotic, where I don't know, we're supporting and enhancing one. I mean, technology without art is wonderful. It can do math, it can do science, it can probably cure diseases. So that's not bad. But technology with art, I think, can speak to humanity in new ways and powerful ways, which I see you doing. So it's very touching.
thank you so much. And Miggs, I have a question. Are you currently working on any projects?
No, I've done a few. I've done a few other sign language things, small ones. But no, I mean, I've done individual projects. People ask me to do commissions for them. They're a husband and a wife together. I mean, so not and some exhibit. I'll show you one. I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
So this is also technology, where art meets technology. So I had a radiologist. So I want to do a series based on this kind of thing, but I haven't formulated it yet. So this radiologist in a local hospital contacted me, and he said, I have an idea. I want you to take my picture, my profile picture, and then I will do an MRI of my brain, and I want you to combine it. So this is, wow. So there's the radiologist. And so it was his idea, and he took the MRI. I took this picture. He took that picture with the MRI. So it's it's kind of a fascinating thing that I'm not sure what to do with, but I like yet how to expand on it, except that, if I showed this to any number of people and said, who is this person? I don't know that they would know if it's a man, a woman, young, old. I mean, a doctor might, black, white, doesn't. So there's kind of this common humanity aspect that I'm always trying to communicate. I mean, isn't the prettiest thing. I colorized it. The MRIs are black and white, so I colorized this to make it more appealing. Otherwise, I think it would just look like an X-ray, and nobody would get it. But anyway, so that's kind of I guess, a little preview of something I'm trying to, like, with Signs of Compassion, trying to formulate into something more bigger and meaningful.
No, that's actually amazing. I myself, coming from medical background, and it's amazing. Well, I could study anatomy using this.
Yeah.
So it's really, really great. Oh, right. And Miggs, now I would like to ask you some more questions to get to know you better as a person, like the person behind the art, if you're okay with that, like a few more questions. What's your earliest memory of creating something artistic? So what was the moment when you realized art could be your life's path?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. My father was a commercial artist, so there was art in the house. He collected friends' art. Didn't have a lot of money, but he would trade with friends. So I was exposed to art. I never took art lessons from him. We never had time to give art lessons to my brother or me, but we're surrounded by art. But the first, I think I can track it down to one thing, and I was 5 years old, and I was just scribbling on a piece of paper. I think they just, to keep me busy, here's some paper and a pencil, and I was just scribbling, not trying to draw anything. And my father came out of his studio and he picked it up and he was like he was like I don't know, like a turn, something amazing. It has some miracle had happened. I don't know what he was talking about. So it turns out, then he ran to his studio and he got out a book. And there's a famous playwright from the long ago, George Bernard Shaw, who's an elderly man with a big beard and had a very distinct profile with a big nose and a beard. And my scribble looked exactly like this person. Now, I never knew who that person was. I wasn't trying to draw anybody. It was purely a scribble. But I think what stuck with me, and I didn't know what to do with it till much later, was the power of a line on a piece of paper, at least from that to my father, for his own particular reason, that a simple scribble, I mean, I didn't intellectualize it as a kid, but a simple scribble could affect somebody so powerfully. And so I guess I always had, again, one of those things that stuck into my brain as a kid. And then when I started doing things more intentionally, I tried to do things more intentionally for that reason, and to get that reaction back. I think I was in constant search of getting that approval and reaction from my father, from that one little scribble, and I'm still scribbling in a way, and with my art.
Yeah, well, that's actually really, really nice. And to get to know how it all started. And Miggs, well, you worked on everything from magazine covers to postage stamps. And which project has been the most personally meaningful to you, and why?
Probably, I mean, I love, having done the covers for Time magazine a long, long time ago, meant a lot because I was on my art was being seen nationally. Nobody knew who I was, and really nobody cared too much. Nothing really came of it. And then the prestige of having a stamp, all that was wonderful. And I got a lot of local acclaim, I guess, for a while. Then it goes away. It's always, what did you do what did you do today, not yesterday? I would say, I have to say the Signs of Compassion is, is whatever the culmination of my, I don't think I'll ever do anything as, well, I don't know. That stands alone as the most satisfying thing I've ever done. But locally, I was asked to design a flag for our town. Our town here is like 25,000 people, so it's relatively small. It's a village, but they've never had a flag before. So 40 years ago, yeah, almost 40 years ago, they asked me to design the town flag. So it flies today. Here at 40 years later, it's still on flagpoles. So that gives me a lot of pride. But nothing truly will surpass Signs of Compassion, just in the impact it's had, and the fact that, if I trace it back to visiting Emily Dickinson's house, and now here I'm looking at you, both of you, standing in front of my exhibit, I can't explain how meaningful that is. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for your answer. And Miggs, I have another question. And what if you're not working on a major exhibit? What does your typical day in life looks like?
It's not that busy. I mean, I like to, on a nice day, I'll ride my bike. I have a cat. I mean, I live alone now. I was married. I'm not anymore. My son is grown and lives in Boston, and we see each other when we can. So otherwise, I just like to be fairly active. I'm not a fanatic, but I swim and jog and ride my bike and keep active. And I'm on a lot of art committees in town. So pretty much every day somebody's asking me to help hang a show or curate a show or, and I try to enter shows. So yeah, I just try to keep, it's not a full day, and I just like to relax too, and watch a movie on Netflix or something. But yeah, it's basically art related locally. I'm sort of been called on to help out with art projects or find artists. People say, "Oh, we're looking for a watercolor artist." Well, I know so many artists in town. I can find a watercolor artist and recommend people and that type of thing. So that keeps me busy. But I don't like to be. I mean, I used to work, day and night, and not doing that anymore. Need to take a breath. Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah. Like even though work is very important, it's still nice to make some time just for yourself. And I think my colleague might have a few more questions to ask, if that's okay. So Miggs, thank you so much for your answers. They've been amazing.
Oh, thank you. And again, applause to you for your sensitive article. And you got it. Some people just see it on a very surface level of, oh, I see. There's two things. Yeah, I get it. And they don't sort of go beyond that. I mean, I don't even know if the title means anything to them. A lot of people it does, but but I appreciate the level, the depth of your description of the project. Anyway.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, I'll jump with just a few more questions.
Sure.
I wanted to ask, do you have any, I don't know, rituals that can put you in the mood? For example, that you have to work and the inspiration is just not there. Is there something that you could do, or you'd rather just drop everything and not do anything?
Yeah, I tell people, and they laugh because they don't think it's true. I tell people I'm the laziest artist they've ever met. They go, "Oh, that can't be true." I mean, I know painters that, they wake up and they're painting and that's the way to be a really accomplished at something, the 10,000 hour thing or whatever. You have to, a musician, a painter, a writer writes, an artist paints or does it, and I used to do that. I mean, but I don't chase. I kind of I'm in a mode where I used to chase ideas and be very aggressive I got to come up with something. I got to do this, and now I kind of trying to sit still and, let things come to me when they will, and maybe they don't, but I don't rush it. I mean, days, weeks can go by with any idea and somebody will go, "Hey, what are you working on?" And I'll go, "Nothing." Is that okay? I'm not working on anything. I mean, things are working, but it's a very quiet process. So I'm more I guess it's a passive thing more than an aggressive thing. I've got to grab a new idea. I'm out, and they will come. I guess, yeah. And, as long as I see things and I go by, I take pictures and again, I file them away, whether they're on my phone or in my head. And someday that's going to, like the brain thing, someday that'll come in handy, that'll be useful. So, yeah.
Okay. And another question, who is Miggs? Who are you? Who is Miggs? If you would introduce yourself, because we don't know that much about you personally, but if I asked you, who is Miggs, what would you say?
Wow, you picked the toughest question for last. Okay. No, maybe not last, but yeah, don't we all want to know who we are? Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, I'm a father, which is really my proudest. My son and I have a great relationship, so I'm a father. I'm an artist. I mean, I try to. Yeah, I try to. I think I try to be just a. Without sounding too out there, a compatible member of the world, the universe, whatever, just be, a particle in the cosmos, but I just want to be a compatible role for harmony. It's not all peace, love, and, that hippie stuff that I used to be part of way back in school, but, no, I think it's important. I've just come to this thing. I just want to be, so who am I? I'm just this functioning receptor of sights and sounds and emotions, and try to process them into something useful for myself and for other people when I can. But yeah, I don't know really. It's for other people to decide who I am or what I am.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good answer. One last question. It's like easier. Again, because we don't know that much about you. Is there something that we might be surprised to learn about you? Maybe like a hidden talent, or I don't know, guilty pleasure, or something that you might think would surprise our readers?
Well, yeah, there's probably things that would surprise people. I've had several, I'd say near-death experiences, not medical, but I've had weapons aimed at me on a few occasions, and nothing. As a 19-year-old, I spent a month in prison in England. Which resulted in an injury, which ironically, ended up having me disqualified for the army, which wanted to send me to Vietnam. So, in a weird twist of fate, my being arrested and injured in prison probably saved my life, even though that at the time was probably the worst experience. I didn't know how long I was going to be in prison. It turned out to be a month, but it could have been longer. Who knows what could have happened. But yeah, then it turns out when I was drafted into the army to go to Vietnam, we're talking about 1968 or 7 or whatever it was, they did a medical exam and said, there's something wrong with your back. And I said, yeah, I was injured. And anyway, so that might be surprise people. I'm not an ex-convict.
Very surprising.
What? Yeah, but I'm not.
Dropped my job when you said that. I was like, wow, you had a life. In a good sense, like in the sense of different experiences.
Yeah, I hadn't committed a crime. Well, in their eyes, I was trespassing. I was on somebody's property I shouldn't have been on. I wasn't stealing. I didn't have drugs. It wasn't a bad, So, but they didn't care. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I shouldn't have been there. But it was an incredible life lesson. Again, not only did it save my life later, but the fact that we're all, and this stuck with me, and maybe it's why I am the way I am, is, every choice is a new path to another life. And I was very irresponsible and clumsy in my choices back then, which led me to this experience. But then you go back and say, yeah, but if you weren't arrested, you might be dead. So I don't know. It means I should be. So I'm just more conscious of making very deliberate, positive choices and trying not to be. There's no time to be irrelevant. For me, to do irrelevant things. It just, doing pretty pictures or something is all wonderful. I love looking at pretty pictures and nice paintings and colorful things. But for me, life is too short to just be decorative.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story.